I was at work, organizing files, when my phone buzzed with a message from my husband James. "I've given Mom our house. You can leave now. She needs it more than you do. Your stuff will be on the lawn by tonight." I didn't shake. I didn't cry. I simply told my assistant I needed a moment. The only sign that my husband of 8 years was trying to kick me out was a slight tightening around my eyes. My name is Olivia Parker, and at 35, I just got the coldest eviction notice ever. But while James was likely feeling smug, imagining me crying at my desk, I calmly locked my office door and called my lawyer. "Mr. Wilson, it's happening," I said. "James just texted that he's given the house to his mother." "As we suspected," Mr. Wilson replied. "I take it he didn't check the property records?" "Apparently not," I said, a small smile forming. "Should I tell him or let him find out the hard way?" "Let's see how it plays out," he suggested. "I'll get the paperwork ready." I looked out the window, thinking about the house James thought he could give away, the Victorian home my grandmother left me, the house I grew up in. James moved in after we got married, convincing me it was smart to live there to save money. He never knew I kept the house in my name, no matter how many times he suggested adding him to the deed. More texts from James. "Mom's always wanted this house. You never appreciated it like she would. Don't bother coming home tonight. The locks are changed." I took screenshots of every message, adding them to my growing file of evidence. James was digging his own grave, and he didn't even know it. I had seen this coming, the secretive phone calls, the sudden password changes, his questions about property values. 3 months ago, I heard him promise his mother she'd have her dream house soon. That night, I met with Mr. Wilson to review my grandmother's will. The house was mine, protected by a clause that stopped any transfer without my consent. "Your grandmother was smart," Mr. Wilson said. "She made sure the house would always be yours." James never bothered to read the will or check the records. His arrogance was his downfall. Then his mother, Margaret, called. "Olivia," she said sweetly, "James told me the good news. We'll pack your things for you. It's for the best, dear. This house was wasted on you." "Thank you for letting me know," I said, calm and polite. "Anything else?" She hesitated, clearly expecting me to cry or beg. "Well, we'll need you to sign some papers." "I'm sure you will," I replied before hanging up. By evening, my phone was flooded with messages from James and his family, from smug taunts to threats. I forwarded them all to Mr. Wilson and checked into the hotel I had booked weeks ago, just in case. From my laptop, I saw that James had filed transfer papers for my house. They would be flagged as fraudulent as he had no legal right to transfer a house he didn't own. I poured a glass of wine and smiled, knowing the shock that awaited him and his mother. One last text came through. "Mom's already planning renovations. Should have done this years ago. Hope you found a nice cardboard box to live in." I saved the screenshot, turned off my phone, and relaxed. Tomorrow would be a dramatic day, but tonight, I could rest easy knowing I was miles ahead of their little scheme. I looked at an old photo of my grandmother standing proudly in front of the house. Her words echoed in my mind. "Always be 3 steps ahead, Olivia, and never let anyone take what's yours." I learned that lesson well. The next morning, I walked into Mr. Wilson's office as his secretary brewed coffee. Things were already heating up. "Your husband and his mother tried to file the property transfer this morning," Mr. Wilson said, sliding a paper across his desk. The clerk flagged it right away. "They're having quite the meltdown at the county office." I turned on my phone to find 37 missed calls and a stream of frantic texts from James. "Why isn't the transfer going through? What did you do? The clerk says there's a problem with the paperwork. Answer your fate on me." "Should we tell them now?" I asked, watching another text pop up from Margaret about fixing this ridiculous situation. Mr. Wilson checked his watch and grinned. They should be figuring it out right about. My phone rang. "James, you never put my name on the deed," he shouted. "How could you be so selfish? This was supposed to be our house." "No, James," I replied, keeping my voice calm. "This was always my house. My grandmother left it to me, remember? But I'm your husband. Everything's supposed to be shared." His voice cracked. "Mom's devastated. She already hired contractors." "Maybe you should have checked the property records before making promises," I said. "This is ridiculous. I'm coming home right now. We need to talk about this." "Actually, you won't be able to get in. I had the locks changed this morning." The silence was deafening. You? What? Changed the locks. Since you did the same yesterday. Also, the security cameras I installed last month caught you and your mother moving my stuff out. That's documented theft, by the way. Another long pause. You've been planning this, he accused. You knew we would. Try to steal my house? Yeah, I knew. I heard you promise it to your mom months ago. I've been documenting everything since then. Mr. Wilson motioned for the phone. I put it on speaker. Mr. Parker, he said, his voice firm. This is Douglas Wilson, Mrs. Parker's attorney. We have extensive documentation of your attempts to fraudulently transfer property you don't own, as well as evidence of theft and harassment. Would you like to discuss this with your lawyer present? I heard Margaret's voice in the background, panicking. James must have been at her house. Olivia, he said, his voice softening. We can work this out. Mom just loves the house so much, and you've always said you wanted something more modern. I'll send you some real estate agents' numbers, I replied. Maybe they can help you and your mom find a house that's actually for sale, one she won't have to steal. Steal? I'm your husband. Everything I did was legal. Trying to transfer property you don't own is fraud. Mr. Wilson cut in. Would you like me to explain the potential criminal charges? Margaret's voice grew shrill. The contractors are already scheduled. I've picked out new furniture. Sounds like a you problem. I said. By the way, I'll be heading home soon to check on my property since you moved my things out without permission. Olivia, please, James tried one last time. Where are you supposed to stay? In my house. The one my grandmother left me. The one you tried to steal. I paused. You and your mom should start apartment hunting. I hear cardboard boxes are available too. I hung up before he could respond, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. Mr. Wilson was already drafting more documents. They'll probably try to claim marital property rights, he said. But the will is ironclad, and we have proof of their attempted fraud. Do you want to press charges? I thought about James and Margaret standing in her kitchen, watching their plan fall apart. The contractors they hired, the furniture Margaret ordered, all based on the assumption they could just take what wasn't theirs. Not yet, I said. I want them to fully understand what they tried to do and who they tried to do it to. I drove home, my home, ready to see what mess they'd left behind. My security cameras had caught everything, and I had no doubt they'd be useful if they tried anything else. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about being prepared and letting karma do the rest. 2 weeks after James and Margaret's failed attempt to steal my house, I was replanting my grandmother's rose garden. Margaret had half dug it up during her premature renovation spree, convinced the property was already hers. But the roses, like me, were more resilient than she'd counted on. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister, Kate. You won't believe what I just heard from Linda next door. Margaret's telling everyone you forged the property documents. I smiled, patting soil around a new rose bush. Let her talk, I replied. The county records speak for themselves. Predictably, Margaret was playing the victim, spreading lies about how I tricked James and stolen her dream home. James, meanwhile, oscillated between angry demands and desperate pleas. Baby, we can still fix this, he texted yesterday. Just add me to the deed, and we'll forget this whole thing happened. I didn't bother responding. I forwarded it to Mr. Wilson for our growing file. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. Another delivery. This time it was Margaret's new furniture. Sorry, I told the delivery guys, but this isn't her house. Never was. They looked confused but eventually loaded the furniture back onto the truck. I'd lost count of how many deliveries I turned away. Contractors, interior designers, even a pool company. Margaret had really gone all out planning her little coup. That evening, Kate dropped by with takeout and a bottle of wine. We sat on the porch, the same porch where our grandmother used to sit, sipping sweet tea and sharing stories about standing your ground and protecting what matters. James's sister called me, Kate said, pouring the wine. Apparently, he and Margaret started selling their furniture weeks ago, convinced they'd be moving in here. Now they're sleeping on air mattresses. I couldn't help but laugh. Karma has a sense of humor. Did you hear they tried to claim adverse possession? Kate asked. Mr. Wilson shut that down fast, I replied. Apparently, you can't claim adverse possession of a house you were invited to live in by the legal owner. Who knew? We clinked glasses, watching the sunset over my grandmother's garden. The roses were already showing new growth. You know what's funny? I said. If they just asked, had an honest conversation about it, I might have considered selling. But they thought they could just take it. Like they've taken everything else over the years, Kate agreed. Remember when Margaret borrowed Mom's antique china? And James said I was being difficult when I asked for it back. I shook my head. Should have seen this coming. The next morning, I received a formal letter from James's lawyer requesting a divorce settlement meeting. Attached was a list of demands including fair compensation for the improvements he'd made to the house. I forwarded it to Mr. Wilson. His response was immediate. Don't worry. I've got documentation of every home improvement payment coming from your accounts. Would he like to discuss the rent he should have been paying all these years? A few days later, I heard through the grapevine that Margaret had been hospitalized for stress after her interior designer refused to refund her deposits. James was apparently couch surfing between friends, his smug confidence replaced by the dawning realization that actions have consequences. I sat in my grandmother's study, now my home office, looking at her portrait on the wall. She'd built this house from the ground up, protected it for decades, and made sure it would stay in the family. Your grandmother was one smart lady, Mr. Wilson had said while reviewing her will. She set this up knowing someday someone might try exactly what James and Margaret attempted. I watched the sunset through the study windows, feeling a peace I hadn't felt in years. The house was quiet, but it was a good quiet. A peaceful quiet. I'd repainted the walls, restored my grandmother's furniture to its rightful place, and slowly erased every trace of their attempted takeover. The roses were blooming again, stronger than ever. My grandmother always said, sometimes you have to let people show you who they are. Just make sure you're ready when they do. I raised my evening tea to her portrait, a silent toast to the woman who taught me how to stand my ground with grace. Her house, my house, would stay exactly where it belonged, in the hands of someone who knew its true value.